welcome to yet another episode of Shifting the Paradigm. You could be anywhere in the world, but you just decided to be here with us, shifting this paradigm. So, the topic that we have at hand today is Black intellectuals. We talk about the psychological state of the Black intellectual, the objectives, potentials, and the restraints that we put on ourselves as Black beings. So, first of all, I'd like to define a Black intellectual as a person that holds expertise in a particular profession, whether it be in academia, in art, entertainment, sports, commerce, technology, and various other industries within society. But I seem to have a problem with this Black intellectual because of the unawareness and just the unconsciousness of this being and realizing their full potential. Through various conversations that I have with many post-grad and undergrad students, there seems to be a deep-seated feeling of fear and doubt in terms of the future, finishing varsity and so on. So I'd love to question this because when we hear about varsity, it's a matter of us attaining and accumulating a specific skill, expertise, and all that. But all this, we tend to forget all this and place this whole concept of a degree being a whole employment ticket. A degree is not an employment ticket. And if that's the case, who are we expecting to employ us? In the state of our country with the high levels of unemployment and so on, crime and so on. Who are we expecting to do things for us? So what I think of this Black intellectuals is for us to come to consciousness in terms of realizing the worth and impact that we have in society or the economy in general. We are the economy. We are the economy. We're active in production, in transportation, logistics. We active in the consumer market. So we are the economy. Black people and other people in the country, we are the economy. The workforce is the economy of a country. So how do we use this work ethic and this employment basis to benefit within our constraints in our communities? I guess that's the questions. How do we use the expertise that we've gained in varsity to actually create employment as opposed to looking and searching out for employment? I guess it's an easy path to look for employment. You have a degree and you just setting up a CV and hoping to be employed. But I feel like us getting into the varsity system, I feel like we should view varsity and all these other spaces within society in a different light, college and so on, in a different light. We should look at it as a skill machine. We're getting these skills, and after those skills the hard work lays in there in how we produce these skills, how we configure businesses that use these skills and create employment for other people, for us with these skills. What I'm crying about is the unwavering, the imminent, the unstoppable psychological state of these Black beings, of us always trying to seek employment and seeking validation with the achievements that we have. No, with the achievements that we have, we should use that to project us to the next level that we want to be, to elevate our economical, position in the country, because, it's a fact that we're very far, as far as other races are concerned. And that's where we come in as Black intellectuals in driving the change within our communities, within our households. It's taking the skill that you have and configuring an employment plan or employment, machine that will generate income and that will generate jobs for various people within society and within our communities. Because, we can go all day, you're working a good job, you're working for a company, of foreign origin and all that. But how does that help us? How does that release us from being dependent? We have to start being self-sufficient, start, taking, motivation and inspiration from various racial groups within our country. As they say, it's a rainbow country. For example, Orania. A lot of people like criticizing Orania, that the white people in Africa, but it's really white people that are just looking for better lives for themselves. And these are what? Intellectuals within their right and using their skills to create a better life for themselves without any dependence on anyone. And that, I feel, should be the role of the black intellectual. The black intellectual should come together, whether we lawyers, IT specialists, we accountants, we footballers, cricket players, rugby players, all these professions within society. We should come together and start configuring or developing strategies that elevate our economical position in the country. Because it's easy to lash out, as I said on the previous, to lash out and go into suburbs and all that, but it doesn't help. It doesn't carry us as a black race and move us to the next level. It doesn't bring us closer to where we want to be, because I really feel like we're more deserving. We're more deserving of a fair piece of the apple pie, not even piece, the apple pie in our country. The various sectors that matter, the mining, whether it's taking a jab at the status quo, but we just have to have that feeling of, that we're deserving and worthy of these things, and actually use our expertise to project our lives into, these great incomes that will change our lives forever. What I'm talking about and asking, as a plea from black people, is for us to create a whole concept of our pigmentation being more of a generational inheritance of prosperity than it being a generational curse. That's all I'm asking, It's for us to just see ourselves as these people rather than us being subdued to be these people that are always beggars. I have to wait for a job. I have to wait for someone to do something for me. No. With the skills that you've accumulated so far, use them to create something bigger than you. If you're a teacher, apparently there's low employment rate in that profession. Actually, in all professions. But if you're a teacher, kids need tutoring. How many kids do you have in South Africa that needs tutoring? Start up a tutoring class. If you're a lawyer, study and push your work. At the same time, within your community, start a law office, and produce, these services and make them more accessible within our communities. If you're a financial advisor, start something like that within your township, within wherever you are, your rural area. This is just the mindset that we have to have as black intellectuals. And in turn, that's the inspiration that we're going to create for a lifetime. To those, in our neighborhoods suffering from crime, suffering from all sorts of social issues out there, they're just going to see this high rise of people that are looking forward to just improve their lives, and in turn also improve their lives. Us being here and doing all this, it's an inspiration from those behind us, for those who come from where we come from, that it's possible, it's doable. So that's the mindset that we have. Our mindset shouldn't be one of, We always have to rely on people for our progression. We should start thinking differently in terms of us having that word of saying, you know what, I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna study, I'm gonna practice, I'm gonna do anything in my power to make sure that what I have, the God-given elements and gifts that I have, how can I just put them a step forward as an inspiration, as a money-making tool? How can I just increase the potential of what I already have without any reliance on anyone? That's all I'm asking for, and that's the plea from us in academia specifically, because the honors students, the post-grad, the final years, these students really go through a lot, especially on the completion of their degrees, because what they have is doubt of the future. Will I get a job? What am I going to do with this degree? But let's not forget the good. You have a skill set, and now the conversation should be, how can we use this skill set to self-independence? How can I use these skills that I've accumulated so far and actually by my own create wealth, create an income for myself without any reliance on or expectation of being employed. Employment is a good thing. You get employment, you get a job. But as I said, with the high rates of unemployment in our country, it pushes us as young people, as old people, black beings everywhere, to actually start thinking differently and thinking on how can we on our own create wealth and employment where we are. I feel like that's how the unemployment status or rates are going to drop. It's when we take the step forward to actually stop seeking for jobs, but start creating jobs with the little that we have. This is to another episode. I hope it touches you someday or another day. And this is Empowering Minds, Shifting Realities. Thank you very much for joining us again. This is all from my heart to the world, and hopefully it will get us somewhere. Thank you very much.